Sulfuric acid offers many benefits. It's used more than any other mineral acid to make products that enhance the quality of our lives. Spent sulfuric acid can be generated from several different sources. These include alkylation processes at refineries, sulfonation reactions, nitration reactions, and chlorine drying. Spent sulfuric acid is a necessary component that companies produce during their manufacturing processes. But if safety practices are not followed, the results can be disastrous, leading to injury and even death. Fortunately, most incidents involving spent sulfuric acid can be avoided. With the right training and a focus on exposure prevention, you and your fellow workers can stay safe when working around spent sulfuric acid. This program will show you how to safely work around spent sulfuric acid. You'll learn how to identify its properties and hazards. You'll understand the importance of wearing the right personal protective equipment. You'll be shown ways to prevent incidents and be able to list the actions you need to take if you experience an emergency involving an exposure or spill. Finally, you'll be able to recognize safety procedures for handling, storing, and loading spent sulfuric acid. Spent sulfuric acid typically has a dark coloration to it. It can be reddish maroon, purplish, or blackish. It's a viscous, oily liquid that's very corrosive. It weighs almost twice as much as water. Spent sulfuric acid may have a pungent odor resulting from dissolved sulfur dioxide, SO2, and/or organics in the acid. The SO2 is a respiratory irritant and can cause damage to the respiratory system. Although sulfuric acid is not combustible, spent sulfuric acid may display some combustible characteristics due to the potential organics in the spent acid. Spent sulfuric acid will absorb moisture. Spent sulfuric acid also reacts with water. When the acid is added to water, it can make the water very hot, even to the point of boiling. Spent sulfuric acid should never be diluted, especially alkylation spent acid. This could cause an unwanted runaway reaction resulting in increased temperatures and pressures. Spent sulfuric acid is corrosive to many metals. This corrosive action happens over a period of time, but it gives off hydrogen gas, which can accumulate to form explosive mixtures. Spent sulfuric acid is a powerful oxidizer and can create the potential for volatile reactions. Sparks or open flames around spent sulfuric acid are extremely dangerous and can cause fires or explosions. If spent sulfuric acid touches an unprotected body, it can cause immediate and serious damage. Look at how quickly the acid chars this sugar. Not only would it burn your skin, but it could damage vital organs and cause death. If you get sulfuric acid in your eyes, it could cause permanent damage and blindness. Whenever you work around spent sulfuric acid, you need to protect yourself. Make sure you correctly use the right personal protective equipment, or PPE. Your employer should supply you with the necessary equipment to perform your job. At the very least, when working around spent sulfuric acid, you should wear tightly fitting chemical splash goggles. In addition to eye protection, wear a hard hat with brim, a long-sleeve shirt, and trousers or coveralls made of acid-resistant material like polyester acrylic, boots with acid-resistant soles, and acid-resistant gauntlet gloves long enough to cover your forearm. In emergencies, or when working on higher-risk jobs, such as disconnecting a hose or opening a pipeline for repair, wear a full acid-resistant suit with hood, boots, and gloves. Respiratory protection for SO2 may also be required. Be sure to wear the pant legs outside the boots to keep acid from getting inside. If you have to go into an area where there are SO2 or acid fumes, a hood should be supplied along with approved respiratory protection. Before your shift, take time to inspect your equipment. A small rip in a glove is all it takes to get a burn. Gloves can be tested by submerging them in water to check for pinholes. If you notice a problem with any of your equipment, inform your supervisor and remove it from service. When you're finished using your equipment, always clean off all acid contamination before taking it off. Then return it to the proper storage area so it'll be ready for next time. The best way to prevent or minimize the effects of a spent sulfuric acid exposure is to know what to do before you're in the middle of an emergency. When working around spent sulfuric acid storage tanks, pumps, or piping, assume hydrogen or organics may be present. Any spark or flame could cause an explosion, so never smoke or create sparks or flames anywhere near storage systems. When you're assigned to work in a certain area, learn where the nearest safety shower and eye wash station are, and test them to make sure they're working properly. Your safety may depend on them. Make sure you know your company's emergency procedures and who to call if there is an exposure. Don't be a lone ranger. It's always safer to work with a coworker nearby, in person or via video camera, so you can watch each other's backs. If something goes wrong, you may need help getting to a shower or eye wash station. A day may come when somebody needs your help too. If someone is exposed to spent sulfuric acid, fast action and the proper first aid can go a long way toward minimizing burns and saving a life. Anybody exposed to spent sulfuric acid needs to get to an emergency shower immediately. Fast action is essential. If your colleague needs assistance and you're wearing the proper PPE, go ahead and help. You must have on appropriate PPE before helping your colleague. It does no good to have two victims. Exposed workers need to be under the emergency shower at least 15 minutes with their eyes open and their contaminated clothing removed. Forget modesty. The contaminated clothing must be removed to get the acid away from the skin. Do not scrape the acid off your skin before getting under a safety shower. This will only remove the skin, leaving a wide area open for infection. If your eyes are exposed to spent sulfuric acid, get to the nearest eye wash station. Your lids must be held apart while the eyes are flushed for at least 15 minutes. Don't hesitate to get someone to help you with this. If there is an exposure, make sure somebody contacts your site's emergency number. When all the acid has been washed from the exposed areas with water, the burns can be treated using wet, ice-cold compresses until further medical help is available. Avoid freezing the burned area. Immersing the burn in ice water is also effective if the injury is located on the hands, arms, or other parts where immersion is practical. Make sure you periodically remove the limb to prevent over-chilling. Watch for signs of shock with the exposed person. Spent sulfuric acid at room temperature may give off organic vapors and/or SO2. Acid mist may also come from hot solutions or reaction tanks. Inhaling these vapors is harmful to the lungs and respiratory tract. Workers exposed to these vapors should be moved to fresh air immediately. If they're having trouble breathing, keep them warm and comfortable. Find a qualified person to administer oxygen. Symptoms of lung injury can be delayed. If the person has stopped breathing, administer CPR. It's important to take immediate action and seek medical attention if you or a colleague is exposed to spent sulfuric acid. Remember, every second counts. Never add water to a spent acid storage tank. The heat and violent reaction could damage the tank and hurt anyone around it if the tank erupts. Assume that SO2 and/or organics will be present, though it's safe to assume that hydrogen may be present anytime acid is stored in steel tanks or pipelines. You can know for sure by testing with the proper equipment. If you have to do maintenance work on a storage tank near an open vapor space and the meter shows that hydrogen or organics are present, make sure to use non-sparking tools. Sometimes it's necessary to weld on or near a steel storage tank. Never attempt this without the proper training, permits, and tests for explosive, combustible, or flammable substances in the area around storage tanks. People have been killed because they didn't follow their company's safety guidelines and take all the proper precautions. The Nexpera product literature is a good guideline because it goes into detail on how to prepare storage tanks or pipelines so they can be maintained safely. Storage and handling facilities must be maintained to prevent leaks and spills. However, even with the best efforts, they may still happen. If you spot any spills or leaks around storage systems, rope off or barricade the area right away and stop the leak. Be prepared to evacuate areas downwind if the spent acid has a level of SO2 above allowed exposure limits. Dikes around the storage tank will normally contain any spill. You can also divert the spill to a containment area away from the tank so it can be repaired. If a leak occurs outside a dike area, keep the spill from getting into waterways. Then dilute the spill with water to a concentration less than 15%. Neutralize the acid with soda ash, sodium bicarbonate, or lime. The neutralized waste can then be safely removed and disposed of as permitted by local, state, and federal regulations. Wear a full acid suit along with approved respiratory protection in any emergency response situation. Use dry sand or dry non-combustible absorbent materials for small spills. On larger spills, use mid-expansion foam or water fog to mitigate a release until the spill is diluted and neutralized. Dike the area to contain the diluted acid until it can be neutralized. Make sure your hoses, fog nozzles, foam makers, and other equipment are available and in good working order for ready use when needed. Response to a fire in a spent acid tank depends on the situation. The preferred response is to snuff out the fire using inert gas like nitrogen, argon, CO2, etc. Fires can also be extinguished with firefighting foam, but this will result in water from the foam diluting the acid. This could cause increased temperatures and reactions along with corrosion of the storage tank shell. The hot diluted acid must be removed from the storage tank as soon as possible to minimize tank shell corrosion. Report all spills according to your company's guidelines and call emergency numbers if necessary. Bulk shipments of spent sulfuric acid can be loaded into barges, tank trucks, and rail cars with pump systems. With pump loading, you can stop a leak in a hurry by simply turning off the pump. To minimize discharges to the environment, closed-loop loading is preferred. As the barge, tank truck, or rail car is loaded, it should be vented back to the storage tank or to a scrubber system. Spent acid storage tanks must be designed, fabricated, and maintained properly. Spent acid tanks should have an inert gas blanket such as nitrogen, argon, or carbon dioxide. The tanks should be vented to a scrubbing system designed for SO2 and organics. Typically, a two-stage scrubbing system is used, one to remove SO2 and one to remove organics. A weak caustic-packed column scrubber works to remove the SO2. An activated carbon bed or a vapor combustion unit can be used to remove the organic vapors. Be sure to follow your local environmental regulations. If you have any questions on these procedures, check your plant's operating instructions, the Nexpera product literature, the safety data sheet, or ask your supervisor. Nexpera is known for quality products and is committed to your safety while handling them. Now that you know the importance of following all the safety guidelines for working around spent sulfuric acid, it's up to you to follow them. Safety is about being constantly aware of what's going on around you and staying focused on every detail of the job you've been trained to perform. Don't get distracted. Handling spent sulfuric acid needs your full attention. By following the right procedures and staying aware, you can keep your workplace productive and safe.